Welcome to episode 4 of How to Play Slide Guitar. Here's a question. Should you play with a pick or with your fingers? The answer is either. I prefer to play with a pick because it gets a lot more bite than the fingers. But that doesn't mean you can't play with the fingers. I'm going to play a little bit of ragtime picking using the fingers and the slide. So just whichever you prefer, whichever you're more comfortable with. Now, I talked just a little bit before about vibrato. Vibrato is when you slide into a position and you wobble the slide around a bit. It sounds very professional. And it's also something that you can use if you make a mistake. For example, suppose you're aiming to slide up to the 12th fret and you accidentally overshoot just a little bit. If you wobble the slide around, put the vibrato on when you get there, it sounds like it was deliberate. I'll do a little bit of deliberate overshoot and then make it vibrato. Because of the vibrato, you don't notice the mistake. And what's more, the mistake you made because of the vibrato would actually end up sounding better than if you hadn't made the mistake and just gone straight for fret 12 without the vibrato. So there are two advantages to vibrato. It can cover up your mistakes and it actually makes you sound better. Now there's another question. Should you stand up or sit down when you play slide guitar? Either, whichever you're more comfortable with. However, I prefer to stand because when I'm standing I can move around while I'm playing and show more passion, and if I'm showing more passion I'm likely to play with more passion and I'll be a better musician. But not everybody is comfortable standing up, not everybody can stand up. So if you sit down or stand, I recommend that whichever one you do it all the time, because you see the fretboard from a different perspective when you're sitting down to when you're standing up. So if you start standing up when you got used to seeing the fretboard in a sitting down position, or vice versa, you could end up getting a bit confused. Now here's another question. The guitar is tuned to a major chord. What do we do when the rhythm is playing a minor chord? Are we stuck? No. Because I'll tell you a little bit of music theory, which you probably know already. Maybe you don't. I mustn't make assumptions. For every major chord, there is a related minor chord. It's called the relative minor. And if somebody is playing in E minor, for example, the relative major will be 3 frets higher than E. 3 semitones or 3 frets are exactly the same on a guitar. 3 semitones, 3 frets higher is your major chord. So if somebody is playing in E minor, if you put your slide into the G position, the relative major, it will usually work. Here's a chord of E minor, and I'm playing G on the top of it. So that's your little theory lesson for today. Now, improvising. I've told you before that you really have to play your slide in the position of the chord that's being played. Now I'm going to contradict myself because there is room for improvising without sticking strictly to the chord that's being played. If, for example, we're in the key of G, you can usually find that if you play on any string 2 frets higher or lower than the G position, or 3 or 5 on any string, that will usually work. But it doesn't usually work if you play 1 fret either side or on the 4th fret. Let's get a rhythm track playing and improvise a bit around the chord of G. It's going to start anytime soon. Here we go. So you'll have noticed me playing some double notes there. You can only do that when you hear that the chord being played is going to be a chord that will match your position, or to put it the other way around, match your fret position to what's being played. When I heard a chord of G coming up there, I said to myself, G. Okay, that's fret 12, I can put some double notes in. And one thing that you will get when you're improvising outside of the key position is ghosting. But you don't want to hear ghosting, because if you're playing away from your chord position, the notes that you will hear ghosting will clash. They will actually be playing a chord which is different, usually different, to the chord which is being played in the rhythm, unless by coincidence the notes and the chord that you hear happens to be the same that's being played on the rhythm, but it usually won't be. So that's ghosting. Now this lesson is coming to an end, but what I'm going to do in the next lesson is teach you how to play a piece. So watch out for episode 5.